So talking specifically about characters, um, instead of in general cases, let's talk about specific characters here. Again, healer, your healer is going to be universal, unless we're talking about Sid's missions, which I will probably do a separate Theorycraft for Sid's missions. Not talking about Sid's missions, your healer is your healer is your healer. You know who your best healer is, almost certainly, and they're the one you're going to use in all these parties. Your support, the only thing really to keep in mind for support is to make sure that they're covering the correct buffs and debuffs for your primary characters. Like, don't bring Ramza with Shout if he's the only one dealing physical damage. That's just not going to do you much good. I mean, it's not bad because he can still do a lot of damage with just his own Shout buff, but it's much better if you bring him as a support for a physical team than for a magical team. And if you do use armor or mental breakdown, I don't personally very often, but a lot of people do. If you do use those, use them for the primary damage characters. Don't try to buoy your alternate damage characters with armor or mental breakdown, because it's just not an efficient use of your resources. They're going to get more damage out of buffing your more people, essentially. It's basically the same multiplier, but for more people, so it's more damage. For your physical characters, the top tier primary damage characters, honestly, these lists are very similar if you watch the physical and magical Theorycraft streams or YouTube videos. These lists are going to be basically the same, because these are you're looking for the same things here. You're basically building a full physical or a full magical team, subtracting one character and slapping in a character from the other type. So you're looking at basically any knight. You're looking at most of the Thief 5 characters, the best spell blades, that sort of thing. And for mages, seriously, just put in anybody who's got 5 and a relevant skill. They're all, like, any character with black 5 is usable. There's some that are better than others, but not by enough to matter, and usually the ones that are like weaker on the attack side are much better on the defensive side, like Lopez. For your alternate damage characters, that's really where this whole thing comes into play. Like I was saying earlier, you really want your characters who can match a self buff with a heavy damage skill. Gilgamesh and Bosch can do Mirror of Equity plus Saint Frost, or in Gilgamesh's case, like Mirror of Equity plus Flashing Blade for AoE. Bosch can do the same AoE trick with the various Samurai 4-star AoEs. He doesn't have 5-star, unfortunately. Leon and Cypher can do Dark Bargain plus Saint Cross. Snow can do Punishing Palm plus Saint Cross. Bartz, he's not as ideal right now, but in the future he'll be Steel Power, or his Lupine Trance Full Break provides a self-attack buff for him, and then he can use Spell Blades or Full Charge or Snowstorm Strike or Tornado Strike, etc. To spit out the damage. Lunas, if you either pull his Tearfing in the combat Nightmare Banner or got it from the Dr. Boggs selection, Lunas is actually one of, if not the best, lone physical characters, because Advance will cap him out on his attack basically all by itself, and then he can make use of things like Full Charge or Barrage. He doesn't get Spellblade 5, unfortunately, so he can't make use of Tornado Strike, but Full Charge, just Advance plus Full Charge will do ridiculous amounts of damage. Any of the Thief 5s, or at least most of the Thief 5s, can do Steel Power plus Safe Revenge. Steel Power is kind of the weakest option here, because it doesn't deal damage on its own, so you're kind of sacrificing damage to increase your damage. It's less than ideal, but abilities like Thief's Revenge are powerful enough to make it worthwhile. And any of the Darkness casters, again, just like the Thief-5s, basically any of the Darkness casters work great. You can give them Memento Mori in Dark Zone, and unless you're going way too slow, they won't buy much faster than the boss will. I think I use that combo a lot in Japan, and there's only been 1 or 2 bosses where I've had my Doom counter actually tick all the way down and my character die. And even then, the boss was at like 5% health, and I was able to win. So don't be afraid of the Doom counter on Memento Mori when we get it. It's really 45 seconds, the Doom counter on Memento Mori, where you're most likely bringing a Roaming Warrior, either Roaming Warrior Shout or Roaming Warrior Wall, and those both have a 25-second duration anyway, so if you're chaining them at 50 seconds, everybody knows at this point that if you're relying on Wall and it runs out and you can't resummon it, you're fucked anyway. Same thing with Memento Mori, it's just 5 seconds shorter. So don't really worry about that Doom counter on Memento Mori. It's very, very, very worthwhile. And then some of the other mages that are worth thinking about, mostly for the future. Lulu, if she has her focus, she's an excellent, excellent alternate damage character. She buffs the whole party's resistance, she buffs her own magic. And then she can contribute only black magic DPS, but they are finally introducing better black magic spells. Kryle's Super Soul Break 2 is the best mage support Super Soul Break, but it's also fine for her as a self-buff, essentially, plus party haste and heavy regen. And she has better spell options than Lulu does. And Terra's Super Soul Break 2 gives her Infire, which, and this is 5 months out, so this is long-term planning. But her Super Soul Break 2 gives her Infire, which buffs Meltdown's damage by 50%, which takes it to like a total of a 20 multiplier, where most mage Super Soul Breaks are like 18 multiplier, so it makes it a better than Super Soul Break castable, multiple tone, potentially spell. Like that in and of itself. And then she can also bring Ifrit for another multi-hit fire attack to benefit from her Infire Super Soul Break. There are other characters like again, going back to the previous slide, anybody who can use a self buff or face, self boost, self base, face, steal, or soul break is absolutely a viable character for your alternate slot. And even characters who don't, some other characters to mention, like BB has his default soul break, lets him buff his magic, same with Ash. Also, any N-element soul break, like both X-Death and Kuja have in Dark soul breaks. Those will let them just crush with Dark Zone. Anything like that, you can find a way to make almost any reasonably offensively oriented character into your lone man out, so to speak. Just be on the lookout for abilities that they can take advantage of that increase their personal damage rather than their team's damage. So, Record Materia, this is something I touched on before. One of the other minor but noticeable advantages of a hybrid team is that you are able to stretch out your Record Materia a little bit more. If you're doing a physical team, often you don't necessarily want to run Dragon's Determination or the other plus attack Record Materias, because they just don't provide much benefit after you use shout. So you want to use things like damage plus 20%. Well, there's only one or two damage plus 20% Record Materias for most weapon types. So if you're using an all-sword team, you've only got Pride of the Red Wings, and I think Beatrix's is also sword plus 20%, and that's it. One of the advantages of doing a hybrid team is you can just use a mage and have them use devotion instead. And now you've got a character that's using a top tier Record Materia instead of having to scrounge around in the bucket for Soldier Strike or whatever. That's just plain worse than your other options. So the top physical Record Materias, any weapon damage plus 20% one is good. Dracoon's Determination is best for a off character, an alternate character that isn't going to hit the attack cap or the buff cap, because it provides, like, if you're not hitting the caps, it provides almost plus 40% damage versus the plus 20% of the weapon specific one. But if you are hitting the buff, it only provides like plus 5%. It's a really dramatic difference whether you're going over the buff. By the way, the buff or the attack cap is 590. It's either 580 or 590. That's after all modifications to your attack stat, including shout and all that. If you go over that, you get significantly diminishing returns from each additional point of attack. The magic cap is currently around 750 in global and will be raised to about 1,050 at some future point. We don't know exactly when we'll get it in global, but it's happened a while ago in Japan, so it should be fairly soon. So hitting the magic cap is a little bit less daunting of an affair. It's less likely to happen. Other things to keep your eye on for Record Materias are double cast. Double cast Knight is really nice. It's just really nice to be able to hit a double cast Saint's Cross when you're already hitting a holy weakness. It's going to do 9,999 anyway. You might as well get 2 casts out of it. One out of 8 times. Also, I didn't write this down, but the specific school damage up, like medium damage up with thief skills, those are usually plus 30% damage and are even better than the 20% weapon damage ones if you're only using abilities from those schools. If you're using like a Spellblade and a combat, stick with the weapon damage or the attack up. But if you're using, say, Mug Morale and Thief's Revenge at some 5 months out future point, then the Thief plus 30% damage one is great. For magic abilities, you have a little bit worse options here. Devotion, Dow Vengeance, Impetuous Youth are the best damage ones because, again, you're less likely to actually hit the magic cap, and also because the magical damage boosters are worse than the physical damage boosters, for whatever reason. However, there are Eidolon's Bonds is very good, plus 20% damage with summons. You're very likely to be using 2 summons on your summoner if you're bringing one, so it's not a big deal to do that. And then the double cast Record Materias again. Blood of the Summoners is the best of the double casts because it's a 20% chance instead of a 12.5% chance or 13%, whatever it is. It's much significantly more likely to happen. So that one is the best double cast. The other one I recommend for mage teams is double cast Darkness, which we won't get for a while. That's X-Death, Record Materia 2, 3, whichever, from his second memory crystal. We won't get that for a while, but that's one that's great to have because, again, your Darkness caster is almost certainly going to have Memento Mori and Dark Zone as their only abilities. So the double cast will trigger off both of them, and Dark Zone hits like a truck. So it's not too worried. You don't need to worry too much about it overkilling. And then, of course, anybody can use Dr. Mog's teachings, Snake Might, Ace Striker, Battleforge. And honestly, if you're using all 4 of those, the advantage that hybrid parties have is much less because you have the best, like that's 4 of your 5 Record Materia slots. I mean, and those are 4 of the 5, or those are probably the best 4 Record Materias in the game as well. And don't be afraid to put Ace Striker and Battle Forged on your mages that have good soul breaks either. They don't get as much quantitative benefit out of it since they don't have Life Siphon, but it's still a very significant increase in the rate that they generate SB gauge. It's still very worth having.